Hey YouTube family, it's your girl Jazzy, getting jazzy with Jazz, and it's new and improved. So I will be bringing y'all all content, all exclusive content, every one of your best reality shows that you like, not starting with even Love and Marriage Huntsville whenever it comes back. And it's not just any reality show. So if y'all want to have a good time with me, just like I want to have a good time with y'all, let's go ahead and get into this video. Okay, maybe this is gonna be better. So I got y'all in front of my computer, but this is BMF and this is Bad Religion, and this is season 4, and the episode is called Bad Religion. And then Sean is introduced, and he says that, now I'm gonna be reading my notes, y'all, because if y'all see, it's different colors and all this stuff. So he says that he said Jay Pusher, he said he flips on everyone, and he works with, he works with everybody. And then it goes to be Mickey, and then he is sitting on the roof, and he is scoping now. Not be Mickey, that's him, Jay Pusher. But then he finds him, and then you just hear pop, 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 pop. And then it goes to the intro. And then when it comes back, then Charles is sitting in his room, and Nicole asks, is he okay? And then she gives him his medicine, and then she gives him some water. But then she tells him, she tells him, she says, Dad, don't forget to pick up your tux for Brian's wedding, which is B. Mickey's wedding. And then B. Mickey is in the car with T, and he missed because he got to have a word with T about missing the shot. And then T said, sir, and then he went off about, it. And they threw him off. So what happened pretty much is, T was telling B. Mickey that, he was mad. And then, his little wingman, it was like, nigga, you miss? How you miss? You supposed to be the shooter. And how you miss? And he was like, I wasn't trying to. It was an alarm that went off. And then pretty much he said, I got nervous. I said, of course you did. Of course you did. And then he says that, I'm sorry. And he said, I came down here just for you. I got on the plane just for you because I feel that we still family. And he was saying, I hope that you still going to be able to make the wedding. I just hope you still going to be able to make the wedding because you invited. And then he just looking at him in the window. And I'm like, And then a man, he comes home to find a man say that this is his front porch, and it is an incestuous ground, and it's our birthright, and everything just built up. And, he was just like, this is my house. And the man says his house, he looked like he had just got off work. He looked like he was tired, and he probably was. And, so he like, I'm trying to go in my house. And then the man wouldn't leave. And then he said, he said, this is my birthright. And then he said, I'm going to call the police. And before he could call the police, you just hear pop, 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 pop. And it is none other than Jay Pusher. And then he in the old pickup truck, and he just shooting and all that stuff. And I'm like, don't do that. And then, he had, killed he had unalived some of the men. And I'm going to say they were of the Islamic faith. He had unalived a few of the men, and then they just falling off the porch. And then, then Jay Pusher, he said, he ducking and dodging and all that stuff. And then it get off of them. And then, well, I didn't tell y'all the best part with that Islamic man. He said, this is my birthright. And he said, get the F off of my porch unless you want to be buried under here. And then that's what the man said. He gonna call the police. And, before he could call the police, then they just rang out pop, 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 pop. And Jay Pusher was in there popping. I'm like, And then he said, for pulling a trigger, money mook. I think that's how you say it, money mook. I guess that's the man's name, Money Mook. I guess that's, who knows? I'm sitting up here pausing, writing the notes down. But I heard what he said. I said, I don't know who that man is. And then he gets to the car to, continue. Pop, 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 pop. And then he just purrs and he just said, And then his crew, they still at it, because him and the crew was still at it. And then it gets off of them. Thank God. Because it was lots going on in this thing. And then Purdy is at the hospital. And then Michi Poo, he brings her flowers. And then she says that she doesn't even know if she wants to get back out there yet. And then he said, well, she said she pretty much scared. And he said, you'll be fine. You'll be back at it in no time. And then she said, and then he grabbed her. She said, oh. He said, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, come on, you gotta be gentle. She just got popped herself on the stage when she was at that adult club, the strip club now. And then she went down. And I thought I had lost my girl. But now I ain't lose her. And then Michi Poo, he's talking to Laz. And then he is perfections, really been, okay, so he says perfections really been on cruise control in the A. And then everything, he said that, everything is just pretty much on cruise control in the A. And then Laz is asking, is he good? And then he says, our drivers had to turn, because the drivers had to turn a hotel. And then, so that ain't good for him. He just had to, they was talking in so many codes and all that stuff. And I'm like, talking in codes. Okay, talking in codes. And then, so he said the driver was on cruise control. And pretty much it ain't all good, But Meech, Meech got to be Superman. And he try to handle the stuff by himself. And he don't be wanting no help. He refused to ask Southwest T, a.k.a. Terry, I'm like, but y'all started it together and y'all had to finish it together. I'm like, come on, Meech, you gotta think about it. Your brother be trying to help you. You just don't be wanting his advice. And he don't. And then Lucille said that she has a surprise for Brian and his wife that is gonna knock their socks off. And she talking to her cousin. And then Lucille cousin picks up mail. And then what she said is, you maxed out Nicole's credit card. She said, well, divorce ain't cheap. And I had to make, pretty much she had to make ends meet, and divorce ain't cheap. I'm like, Lucille, come on now, girl. Don't do that. Do not do that. She done maxed Nicole's card out, and she said that she's trying to pay for everything because she got bill after bill after bill after bill after bill after bill. And it's just hard for her right now. I'm like, okay, Lucille, I can second that, but you didn't max out that. You didn't maxed out Nicole's credit card. And then, because her cousin, she said, Lucille Flannery, you've maxed out this credit card. And I said, don't call her full name Lucille Flannery. And then she says that divorce ain't cheap. And I said, oh, well, you would be right. Divorce ain't cheap. But, and she said, can't be. Hold on. But I'm finna just summarize that saying because I remember everything that happened. You know, she just being ballsy and bold and saying divorce ain't cheap and this and this and that. And then her cousin said, well, and she said, Charles ain't bringing no money in. He done got hurt. I said, what? And then her cousin said, well, can't he file for a workers' comp? She said, it's going to take too long. It's going to take too long. So, no. And she just pretty much said that she'll go to the week office and see. Because what she said is, with her and Charles being divorced, he's still staying in the house. And I know that when it's not just you and a child or children staying in the house, somebody else, like whether it's a boyfriend, husband, fiance, whoever, nobody can be in the house other than who you say on the application. And then after that thing, I'm like, Lucille, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. And then T called to see if T wanted to know if Meech was having the exact same problem, you know, with the business as him. And then he said, well, I'll call and I'll see. And then so he calls and he said he checking on Purdy. And then he said, she fine. Meech, she fine. She fine. He just was pretty much blowing T off because he didn't want to talk to him. He did not want to talk to him at all. And then, like I said, he ain't paying him no attention. He dismiss him all the time. He be being disrespectful to T all the time. I never really liked that. And then he been very dismissive, like I said. And then he asked, well, what about Duffy? And he said, well, how is Duffy doing on his vacation? And he was like, well, as far as I know, he doing good. He doing good. And he a loyal customer. So he ain't gonna never change up. And he ain't gonna never turn on me. And then he clicked. He done hung up in his face. And he said, asshole. I said, you know your brother is that. And I said, that was so unnecessary, Demetrius. Demetrius, that was very unnecessary, okay? That was so unnecessary. And I be just saying myself, I'm like, how do he deal with him? And then we get to Duffy. And then Detective Vaughn. He's questioning him, and he trying to get him to break, and he trying to get him to turn on BMF. And he pretty much told him, he said, I'm not going to turn. I ain't got nothing on Meech. I still ain't got nothing on Meech. He still ain't got nothing on nobody. So I guess he can stop asking. And then he did. I didn't like this move to attempt to get him to still talk, but he still didn't talk. So he brought his daddy in there. And then he was like, Dad. And then his daddy was just pretty, they gave each other a hug. And his daddy was just pretty much saying that what you need to do is you need to cooperate with these people. Because I don't have much time to live. And he was coughing. And he sound pretty bad. And he said he don't have much time to live. And he pretty much telling him that he needs to cooperate with the police. And Duffy wasn't going to do that. And he said he want him to, when it's the end of his life pretty much, he wants to know that he still has a son that can get out, make some of his life, and then have a family, and then have a wife. And do you think that he did that? No, he ain't gonna do that. Then we get off of Duffy, and then we go to the church. And then we arrive to the church, and they are in for a treat because Brian, this Brian's wedding, and then, he don't know how to do his tie. So Charles was back there, and he was asking him, could he help him with his tie? And he said he'll pretty much be honored. And, Charles is nice. He is Terry and Charles. They both the nice ones. And Meech is Lucille, because they're both mean. Just mean. And then once he gets his tie on, then it gets off of that. And then it goes back to Meechy. And he is with Pa Slug. And then she said, get up. And that's Sweetie, y'all. So Sweetie, she had a little guest appearance up in there. And I said, okay, so she's connected. I'm going to tell you who Sweetie's character is. Her name is Slug. And she said she don't go by Slug no more. She go by Boss Slug. And so she's connected to Jay Pusher. And she's related to Jay Pusher. They didn't say whether it was a sister or a niece or a cousin or anything. But she's connected and related to him. And then she pretty much said that she getting how she live on her own on the street. And she said that let me see. She said that she's getting how she live and she good. And then Meech was asking, do she need anything? And then she said she good. And then she said she'll holler at him. And then it goes back to the church. And then Lucille, she's singing at the church. And at the wedding. And then Nicole is sitting down. And then she starts to, dance with her ex. And then they was just dancing and all this stuff. And he asked her what's wrong. And she finally said, if I tell you this, you cannot cause a scene. And then she said, I'm pregnant. He said, but Nicole, that, with school and everything, and, it's just going to be hard for us. And she said, well, we'll figure it out. And then he was touching her stomach, and Lucille is nosy. And he was touching her stomach, and I said, oh, gosh. And, she was looking. And then she told him that she's pregnant. And then she said that a baby is going to change everything. And then, after they danced and all that stuff, it went back to the after. And when the reception was over, the wedding was over. And then they were cleaning up. And then Lucille, she went to snapping. She told her that, how long was it going to take you to let us know that you was pregnant? And then he said, Charles said, you pregnant? Oh, you pregnant? And then Lucille says that while chanting up, when were you going to tell us, that you was with child? I would have said that part. And then Charles says, Nicole, you pregnant? And then they in the reception area. Oh. And then T said, wait a minute. So you pregnant? And then, is it worms? And she said, yes. And then Lucille said, oh, Lord Jesus. And then she tells Nicole that you need to take an AIDS test. And then Nicole says that she is no different than LaWanda and Lori. And then Lucille said, well, you're not, but both of them know who their baby fathers are. And she said, I know who my baby's fathers are. And she said, I know who my child's father is. And then here go Lucille. She ain't never stopped. She said, it's been a worm. And then it's a breeze. So who knows who else? And then she said, Charles says, Lucille, stop. And then she said, Charles, stop. And then Nicole said that I will be raising my child on campus and I will be okay. And she said, well, I'm not going to be paying for no room and board. No room and board ain't going to be paid for by me. And then she was proceeding, Nicole was proceeding to get up out of there. Because nobody want to hear that, Lucille. You already done scold her enough just in them few seconds. And I'm like, Nicole is grown. And yes, she can go back to school. And she has a plan to go back to school. All right? And Duffy tells Vaughn that she not saying shit to him. And he says that he found a family in Meach. And he said the black families are being broken up and being separated. And I said, you're right. And he, Vaughn always be trying to tell somebody this, that. It was just pretty much saying that he ain't gonna never snitch on Meach, and he ain't gonna never snitch on nobody in BMF, because he said that he found family in Meach. And then he said it's BMF all day. It's BMF forever. And he said, I ain't gonna never snitch on my folks. I ain't gonna never snitch on my boys. And then he was like, and you found yourself as the house ninja, pretty much. And you just been pressing your clothes as the house ninja. And then Vaughn said, well, he got up and he said, well, you will. And I'm like, get out of there. Just get out. And then he clears his throat, and then T rolls up a worm. And then T lights the stove. And then he says that if that little monster she's having is yours, you gonna do right by her. You gonna get married. It's gonna be the white picket fence. And then y'all gonna get married. And y'all gonna have a house. And y'all gonna be happily ever after. And then he didn't went to burn the darn boy. He said, wait. Nicole pregnant? And y'all be mindful that Nicole, she didn't tell nobody. So no, he did not know that she was pregnant. And I'm like, T, y'all be jumping too far ahead. And you gonna scare the poor boy. And then you just messed up the boy's face. And I'm like, don't do that. And then Lucille, and now back to Lucille. Lucille is at the WIC office. And she is approved And then, it proved at first. Then Lucille kept talking too much. And I said, everybody know when you go to offices like that, if you're trying to get assistance like that, you don't never say too much. You say just enough. You answer the questions that they ask you, and you never give more information. And then the lady said, well, I do see that it's another party in the house. And Lucille said, well, we're divorced. He's hurt. He's injured. He can't leave. He's injured. He has nowhere to go. And then the lady said, well, I'm sorry. And she said, next time, if you do it next time, then you will know. And denied. I said, so you approve her thing? You approved her case to deny it? I said, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I guess that's how they be doing it. And then T is at Marquisha's house. And he sees that she said Boone is out of jail and stayed with her. And Boone is out of jail and staying with her. And he says he leaves because he says, so he gonna be staying in the house. He gonna be sleeping in the bed that I bought you, Marquisha. And he pretty much told her, he said, see, I knew I did good by leaving all my money with LaWanda. And he said, you ain't no good. And he walked out the house on her. And then she's like, I'm like, yeah, you trying to two-step and do all this stuff. And I'm like, girl, you was doing too much. You messed up your own bag, girl. And then it goes to Meech. And he talks to the man of Islam. And he trying to, make a deal with him. And then they was just pretty much saying how Jay Pusher, he said he don't want to work with Jay Pusher. And they made a deal. And that's how it was. And Lucille is at the house. And she crying. And she says that I can't do this. I can't do this no more. I can't. I got to pay all these bills. It's a credit card bill, Nicole's room and board. And Nicole is with child and she pregnant. And I can't do this no more. And then Charles says, well, we can both do it. We can both get it together. We always do. And then she snapped on him and she said, Charles, it's all your fault. It is all your fault. And she says that he is the problem. And she can't get nothing with him here. And then he doesn't you see that you don't do nothing but complain and mope and complain about that tour that you can't go on. And then you injured and you can't do nothing. You can't even help. I said, but Lucille, wait, the man is hurt. You saw him. You see his hand. He got to be in the cast, girl. He got to be in the cast. I said, she's so mean and she's so inconsiderate. And she berated and put him down. And then when she said, your stupid tour, he said, that hurt his feelings. And that shows how she is. And then Lucille comes down, because, she didn't did that. And I guess she had to have time to think about it or whatever. And it was a good moment. And then she came down to the basement where Charles was. And he says that he can't work. He failed himself and his family. And Lucille says that he is useless. He said, you right, Lucille, I'm just useless. And Nicole, and she said, I need you, Dad. And my baby will need you. You're not useless to us. And we need you. And then Charles gets a pow and says that he does not want to live anymore. And then Terry finally come down there and he said, Dad, is this the pow that you got from me and Meech? And they just have a heart to heart, and he gets him to just calm down. And then Meech, he meets with the Islamic man to talk about moving their bricks. Then Pusha starts popping up. He said, pop, pop. Then Pusha pees on. And he was, the man that Meech was talking to, he didn't unalive the man. And I'm like, so he ain't gonna be able to get no work, and he gonna just be disrespectful and then just unalive the man and all this stuff. He bout unalive Meech. And then Meech was like, they know how to dodge them bullets now. Pew, 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 pew. Know what to do. They know how to unalive. They know how to dodge them bullets so they won't be unalive. And then Jay Pusha, he's so disrespectful. The man that he unalive, he just didn't peed on him. I said, so disrespectful. And then Meech tried to roll up about the hit that he has. Then he's arguing with T, and he's saying, so you didn't send this person to go ahead and mess up the deal, mess up the money. So all the stuff that happened to Meech, he figuring it out. Meech is figuring out that Terry did have a part in that last hit that he, suffered in. And then Terry, he said, yeah, but it's this, that. And they just started fighting. They just started arguing. They just started everything. And I said, And I said, the family, the brotherhood just falling all kinds of apart. And back to be Mickey. And I'm finna tell y'all what that little slick little man did. So, Big Mickey and his wife, they talk about how blessed they are and how he says that he gonna make sure that Meech and T never do anything, and he never is gets over on them again. So pretty much he's trying to branch out. And I don't know if y'all know the true story, but B. Mickey's character is somebody that did branch out and then just traded on them, So, and see, Meech, he wasn't effing with B. Mickey, no way. It was T that was, giving him a chance and all this stuff, because Meech was already telling him, no, we ain't getting back in business with him. He just had to beg. T had to beg Meech to even do what he did and not unalive the darn man, because he was about ready to just take him out. So on that scene where he scoped B. Mickey scoped Pusha. He scoped Pusha out. And then it was a scene he had the scope. And then he was looking. And then he did start. He was pow-powing. And then the screen had went dark because the intro music started coming up. So they went back. And he was shooting he was pow-powing at the concrete. The sidewalk. And then Jay Pusha, he was getting behind the door and all that stuff. And then he just did this. He did it in the air. So the 3 pow-pows that he did all 3 of them at the sidewalk. And then he pow-pow in the ground. And I said, so he did. I can't even say that I'm mad at him, though. Because at the end of the day, he got a family. And you got to look out for what you look out for, I guess. I don't know. I ain't in that life. I'll just review it to the best of my ability. But that was BMF season 4. And the episode, let me look at the name of the episode for y'all, because I been told y'all the wrong darn name since they ain't giving no numbers or nothing like that. BMF Bad Religion. And that was season 4, BMF Bad Religion. I hope y'all have a blessed rest of your day. And bye, YouTube. Have a good rest of your day. And that was the video. I want y'all to do me a favor. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, YouTube family.